The story begins with the fact that we can see a house that stands on a floating stone, which is held in place by chains. And we also see a kid who apparently fights with someone, and he gets seriously wounded. It was some strange man. With a katana in his hand, he was hovering right above that kid, and it was he who was delivering the blows. The guy started saying that he really trusted him, and was there for him, side by side in every situation. So why did he betray him so sneakily, like the last rat? No military honor exists in him. Why? He could not understand it, and find an answer to this question. But he explained that it was because he dared to rise to God's level, when he was at the bottom because of their friendship. Lu Xiaohong said goodbye to him, with no emotion of pity or anything like that, and just killed him without blinking an eye. He realized that it looked like he was dead again. He was dead again, and he didn't know what awaited him this time. Lin Fei in his past life was just an ordinary guy, not having anything meaningful behind his back, or loyal friends, comrades. It all went on like that, until one fateful day, when a mysterious man with a scar on his face appeared and took his life. He rejoiced that he was not dead yet, but alive, for real, which gave him great surprise and joy. It so happened that he was reborn in the heavenly realm, reborn on the path of perfection. From the perspective of a mortal, the 9 heavens fell into chaos, punishing the gods, eliminating demons, and getting rid of all obstacles to development through the world. He thought that in this life he could improve his chi and ascend to the end of the heavenly realm, but it turned out as before. He was in some kind of space, and assumed that his spiritual core remains intact. Is that a will of heaven or something? And then he wakes up somewhere in his throat, where this place starts to remember him, but he did not want to believe it. It was a brothel, high-rise buildings reinforced with steel. Surely this is Earth, and not another planet. After which he noticed that he was wearing the same clothes when he first died, and what that could mean. That's where he was killed, and he thought of something that could be, right, his phone, which he can use to figure out what to do, and learn information about the current world. May 15, 2019, 8 p.m., he returned to his past life on Earth. 2 hours before he died, he's still alive. He's definitely still alive, which made him immensely glad that he could go back, and alive. But still, what was that divine light that entered his body then? But who cares? And he just decided to see if he could use it right there at that moment. His cultivated energy was absorbed by divine light? How could this happen? Wait, that's what pure and massive energy? Could that be the great celestial life force? Despite the loss of past cultivation, he has acquired such mysterious and divine power. If not for the combination of these powers, would he, Lin Fei, have been resurrected so easily? Or would he not have been able to be reborn? It seems his development is not high enough. He feels a lot of restrictions on all his abilities. At this time, Lin Fei did not understand that the conditions of cultivation on Earth and in the heavenly realm are different. The method of cultivation of the heavenly realm involves the collection of qi and the construction of the foundation, the golden sphere, the spiritual core, the transformation of the god. Each realm is divided into 3 levels. Each realm requires a huge amount of energy to maintain. At this point, he needs to cultivate. At this time, Lin Fei did not know that the subtle spiritual energy on Earth was no longer used in the heavenly realm, and he wondered how much stronger he was now than his former self. Since ancient times, spiritual energy was no longer a field for cultivators. They sought another way to use the essence of heaven and earth, creating other methods of Tao. Each area of cultivation is divided into 3 levels: beginning, middle, vertex. The kingdoms of cultivators are divided into spirit, dark, initial, transfigured, formless, ascended, and earthly. Lin-Jing cultivators are strong and fast. Xianjing cultivators can cover a distance of 100 steps in an instant. Sitian cultivators have unrivaled protection, which is the stuff of many legends. Hushan cultivators can defeat hundreds of thousands of enemies thanks to their strikes on the flesh. Wuxian cultivators can destroy enemies from the air, using swords that they control remotely. Shengjing cultivators can control the whole world, and this is no joke. They are incredibly powerful. After breaking into the realm of the Ascended, the cultivators move on to the next form of being, the Ledixian from ancient times. No one could reach this realm. It looks like he's going to have to work hard to remove the restrictions this world has placed on him. Lu Xiaohong, just wait for me to recover, he said, looking up at the sky, full of determination. He will surely avenge him for killing him, unceremoniously, like a true traitor. His phone suddenly picked up, and there was a text message from someone named Mu Qing Chung who told Lin Fei that if he wasn't in trouble, he should come home. And he remembered that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. But well, we'll have to go to her. It was a girl, and for some reason, he was forced to go to her. Lin Fei was already on his way to this house, a white stylized large private house, where the same woman was waiting for him. When he went inside, she asked him why he looked so much like a homeless man. Qing Chung assumed that he came from the garbage dump. That's why he was so dirty and shabby. It was hard for him to find the right words, because he went back decades. No matter how prepared you are, you will still feel too emotional. Qing Chung smiled and asked, what is it? He can't even tell her about his wild night anymore. She clung to him, called him dear husband, and asked what was wrong. Let him tell her what happened. What happened to you? Where have you been? That's what she asked repeatedly, not having heard the answer the first time. But he answered her as coldly as possible, saying that he was walking, tripped and fell, nothing more, and added that he was going to take a shower, so don't let her distract him. She noticed that she was worried about him, and he wouldn't tell her anything. So what's the matter? While he was taking a shower, he remembered his past with her, and it was exactly the same. When she asked where he was going, he just answered unimportantly. He decided that he would no longer make the mistakes of the past, would no longer allow himself to die in this world or any other. But it's still strange why this man didn't kill him, and he's still alive in this world. By the way, he needs to treat her better than he does now or in the past. He used to be incredibly cold. At this moment, Lin Fei heard someone or something rustling at the door, and realized it was Qing Chung. So he just told her to come in. She explained that his clothes were dirty, so she prepared a new set of clothes for him. For this, he decided to pat her on the head, thanking her. After all, he had decided to treat her better than before. Qing Chung was in a stupor, from embarrassment, joy, not understanding what happened. Then he ignores her, then strokes her head. But Lin Fei was not going to be long, and said he had to go, but he would be back soon. Of course, she asked him where he was going, and wondered where he was always in such a hurry, even thought to follow him until he knew. But unlike all the other times, he said that he would walk a little, and also added that he was fast, so there was nothing to worry about. Of course, Qing Chung was very happy about this, and did not even arise, overwhelmed with joy at hearing the words. As Lin Fei was walking down the street, he thought about the fact that, unfortunately, he was too cold with her, and in the end, they didn't even have anything to talk about. But it's not worth filling your head with all this. You need to figure out how to relax in the midst of all the events around you. And as he was walking down the street, he saw some man shouting on the phone to people to come quickly to the square where he was. Lin Fei took him for an ordinary redneck, because judging by his clothes, he has no taste and no understanding of fashion. But then he suddenly realizes he forgot his wallet, and didn't know what to do now without the money himself at night. And he forgot about it as soon as he saw the girl running at him and asking for help, which looked really shitty. Sir, please save me. I'm being chased by rapists. She kept repeating and clung to Lin Fei because she was very afraid. It was 3 teenagers who apparently have achieved nothing in life, losers, and decided to get their hands on a defenseless girl, of course, by force. One of them said it was better to give her to them, otherwise Lin Fei would be in trouble. But he did not want trouble. The girl did not understand how he could so easily hand her over to them to be killed. This kid thought it was a good thing, so he even thought they would share it with him. But then he got hit in the face. Lin Fei asked the boy if he thought Lin Fei was a scum like them, and decided he would teach them all a lesson. And as he swung to strike back, he was stopped by some foot. He was the man from the village, and he stood up for the girl and helped Lin Fei. The guy said it looked like there was another suicide bomber, meaning this man, and ordered his friends to beat the crap out of him. But this man is no slouch, and instead of running away as most would, he took a fighting stance, preparing for a fight. He almost hit the guy with purple hair in the face with the first punch, but missed a little. But right after that he kicked the fat man in the solar plexus with his right foot before he noticed the blow. They will see who beats the crap out of who will be the winner, and who will be the last one to laugh in this battle. The kid just called him useless garbage, who says he can destroy his world, who said that such a lowly fatty like him could violate his plan. How dare he do such a thing? The man fell straight to the ground from this blow to the stomach, and all you could tell by his appearance was that he was in pain. Because of this, the kid thinks he's so cool, and he pretentiously said that he shouldn't have messed with him, so that he wouldn't regret it later. This girl ran up to him. It looked like they knew each other. She asked if he was okay, but he told her to better run. He could probably beat that kid. At this time Lin Fei started clapping, talking about what a wonderful performance it was, hinting at something, and added that they definitely need an Oscar. They are great actors. Hollywood needs them. This girl had no idea who he thinks he is. Not only does he not help them, but he also makes fun of them. While she was mad at him for his behavior, the kid wondered who he was. It was all ambiguous in this situation. For all intents and purposes, he ordered all of Lin Fei's teeth knocked out to the last one, and not to spare him no matter how much he asked. When one of them tried to hit Lin Fei, he just missed, because it was too slow for him, then asked why he was so lethargic, and told him to cheer up, instantly kicking him in the chest with his knee. But he didn't forget about the other one, so he foreheaded him, and wanted to know what he was like. In the end they were both knocked out, although Lin Fei only took one punch each, and he added that the kid was right, they were useless. Then he turned to the man and the girl and started saying that he just can't stand scumbags like him. The girl didn't understand what he wanted. They really seemed to have something to hide, and this whole situation was not easy. She stood up for him and said she wouldn't let him get hurt at the cost of her life, which seemed very strange. But Lin Fei didn't hesitate long to walk right past her, so fast that she didn't even notice. He stepped on that man's foot and asked that girl, "Doesn't she want to know what's really going on?" The girl didn't know what he meant. She was generally stupid, and the fat man told her to get him away from him. Lin Fei revealed it, saying that his scam was convincing, because he hired these thugs and pretended to save her. She got really scared when she heard it, and obviously he started telling her not to listen to Lin Fei because he's a cheat. Her stupor continued, for it was not easy to believe such a thing, and Lin Fei added that since this boy was not one of his people, he wouldn't mind if that fat man lost one of his arms. Is he thinking right? And he really didn't think twice about taking his arm, breaking it, and started twisting it a little bit to break it. The fat man didn't understand what was going on, and why they wouldn't take him down. He ordered them to beat him up, but these guys didn't react. But he wasn't going to break any arm. He was waiting for him to confess. And that's what happened in the end, because fear gave him no choice. The girl cried and said he was really a horrible man, whom she didn't even want to know. He tried to stop her and explain that it was just a misunderstanding. So he grabbed her arm, but she angrily said let go. One of those guys asked his boss what to do now, to which he replied that they had already been paid, so it was time to go. But Lin Fei couldn't just let them go. So he rushed into the attack, saying that it would not be easy, because they are weak, who probably do not even have a chance. He was able to deal with them in about 5 minutes, and now no lowlifes are wandering around these streets. The fat man kept trying, but the girl said she couldn't believe he was like that anymore, and on top of that she now didn't want to see him. And then someone in the bushes addresses Miss Mu Ching Chung, which instantly reminded Lin of his wife. It was her, who ordered flowers with delivery. Then she was asked to sign at a specified place. When Lin saw the flowers, the only question on his mind was who sent them. So he asked that. She smiled as she was pleased, saying it looked like he was jealous of her, but she wouldn't tell him on purpose. But as it turned out, she was mistaken, and he just wanted to tell her that there was a bee on the flower, nothing more. It scared her to death. Why are there bees in roses? Because roses have no nectarine and little pollen, and a bee in them. It was strange. When Lin saw these flowers, he knew there was something wrong with them, and apparently assumed or knew what it was. Of course, Ching Chung began to worry about him, and asked him to come inside as soon as possible because she was afraid of the bees. But he wasn't going to, because there was spirit energy on the flowers. It's so weak that he can barely detect it, but it's there nonetheless. It turns out that there are people in this world who cultivate. However, it is not surprising. Now we will be able to see the previous life, the land before Lin Fei's death. He was walking down an alley that was lit up at night just like daytime, and he got a message from Ching Chung asking for his location. And at that moment, he was pushed by some man with blue hair, and Lin apologized, to which the man said no problem. Then he pulled out a knife and told Lin to leave his life behind, thus directly saying that he would kill him. And he added that a certain King Yama wants him to die at 3, but he dares to live until 5? Lin told him to stay away, and was very afraid of this man, not knowing where to hide, but he just kept laughing. After Lin's entreaties failed, he started threatening the man that they were on the main street, and he would call the police. He started running away screaming for help, because he could be killed now, very easily. But none of the people saw or heard him, for some strange barrier from the aura prevented all. The man decided not to delay, and used his mysterious power to throw and thrust his sword directly at Lin. And when the knife went into his back, suddenly all the people started to see him, and they didn't understand when he fainted, but he didn't have the strength to do anything. People also noticed that he had a big knife sticking out of his back, so they started calling the police, which made him wonder if his death was related to Ching Chung, and did she know anything about it. That man is clearly able to generate barriers, so it is a big clan, but something in his mind did not agree. Who needs to spend so much power to kill an ordinary man? May 20th, if Ching Chung had not reminded him, he would never have remembered something. 8 a.m. Lin is sleeping peacefully in his bed, and he is dreaming wonderful dreams, and nothing bothers him until this moment. His wife woke him up and told him to wake up. Apparently he had forgotten what day it was, which could have been bad for their relationship. But he remembered everything. It was their anniversary. But what was the rush? But she started yelling for him to get up, and it wasn't her fault that he forgot. They've only been married for 10 days. What an anniversary. You have to go to school today. Hurry up and get up, she said. School? Lin walked around the school and said that the previous semester had already passed, so why shout so loudly? Nevertheless, going back there and looking around wasn't such a bad idea, he thought, and put it into action. And the old man who was near Lin seemed to be awakening chi, which he was definitely happy about. Lin wondered if it was really a chi cultivator, so he greeted him to start a dialogue. This old man thought that Lin was interested in his Tai Chi practice, so he approached him. Lin dared to say he knew something about it, so he wanted to talk to this old man to learn something from him. Young people who do the art of Tai Chi are quite scarce these days. Kid, what do you know about it? Asked the old man. Lin replied that not so much, but even that's enough to say that your Tai Chi style is a little different from what I've seen, and it seems to be missing something. As it turned out, this grandfather has been practicing the art of Tai Chi for over 10 years, and no one has ever dared to make such a claim against him. He went on to say that the principles of Tai Chi are in the breath, because it carries spiritual energy, but your spiritual chi is blocked. The old man only replied that young people in their day don't understand how the world really works. And Ling didn't want to tell this old man, but his injuries had already blocked him in all 8 special meridians. In this life, he had already reached his limit, but since he doesn't want to hear anything about it, he won't say another word to him from now on. The old man decided to try to attack, but Lin calmly grabbed his arm, which really surprised the old man, and taking him by the wrist he just threw him to the side. But the old man was able to stand on his feet. Suddenly there are some people who had a light in their eyes, a fuse of their strength and determination, and the old man tells them to stand still, because it looks like this guy is a cultivator. How come he didn't notice it right away? But this young man still needs practice, and no matter how well you know martial arts, you're still a regular person. Lin decided to change his mind in a moment, asking him to take a closer look, and the old man was shocked by what he saw. This is who he really is. Lin is not an ordinary man, he is a strong cultivator, and has been to another world. The old man's guards didn't take long to attack Lin, for he had become a danger to their boss. But the old man told them not to attack him, and added that he was perfectly fine, so they shouldn't touch him. Lin told them to just fuck off, and started using some trick that pushed them all away at once. One of those guards realized that this was a sphere of beginnings, but no, he was wrong. This is a certain sphere of development. It is a projection of Jinqi. But his age, how is that possible? The old man no longer understood anything. Then who is this man? Lin stopped and asked the guard what else was the orb of beginnings. Maybe he meant the black orb. Lin asked for a chance to talk about it. The old man introduced himself and began to apologize. Lin himself also introduced himself. The old man laughed and said that he was the most manly of all men, and his name sounded more prestigious than the others. Lin did not understand what he wanted to tell him. The old man laughed again and continued that if he does not know the basics, then how will he fight? He was so surprised to learn about the levels of qi. He realized that Lin does not know anything about the levels of cultivation. It seems that cultivation on Earth is very different from what it was in the heavenly realm, and precisely because of this, his former cultivation here is limited. His master taught him cultivation since he was a child, but he never told him the theory. The old man was surprised and understood everything. There is nothing complicated about understanding the levels of cultivation. They develop their innate qi with it. For this they are called cultivators. In cultivation there are 6 main spheres, each of which is divided into 3 secondary levels: basic, intermediate, and higher. It seems that he will have to reach the level of the immortality sphere on Earth in order to return to the heavenly realm and take revenge. So that's how it is. Does Elder Chu know what level of the sphere he is at? Looking at Chi brother Lin, to be frank, in his opinion, he is at the basic level of the developmental sphere. It turns out that his 4th layer of cultivation in the celestial realm is equal to the basic level of the sphere of development on Earth. He thinks achieving the sphere of initiation and then the sphere of transformation will not be such a difficult thing. But how is it possible that Brother Lin can cultivate the qi of the sphere of beginnings while only at the level of the sphere of development? It is astonishing. Of his 3 bodyguards, 2 are at the highest level of the spirit realm, just 1 level below yours, and the 3rd is at the basic level of development of the realm like you. In Jiangbei City, they are among the best cultivators, but even they could not withstand 1 blow from Brother Lin. Is it really because he originally started training with spiritual qi in the heavenly realm, which is much stronger than the innate qi on Earth? You don't have to answer. After all, it's Brother Lin's secret. I don't want to draw him out of you, but I hope that brother will accept the invitation to join the Chu family. The Chu family will be very... And then Lin interrupts him and tells Elder Chu that he doesn't need any faction. He does not know how many and which cultivators in Jiangbei City belong to the Chu family faction. Until he finds out information about this, he will not make such hasty decisions. The old man asked him not to refuse so easily, and offered to look at one of the greatest treasures of their family, Chu. Melting spirit jade. It is one of the greatest cultivation tools. In the celestial realm, it increases the speed of cultivation. And Lin was surprised that in this world, in his ordinary land, there were such treasures as this. Now he could very quickly merge with the energy of the great emperor, which was a very good bonus for him. Lin did not understand. If Elder Chu could get such a precious treasure, then it turns out that their faction has more powerful cultivators than him. So why was he so insistent that he join them? But Chu asked how he thought. But he decided that he would tell him the truth. Lately, there are fewer and fewer strong cultivators, and there are simply no more transformation cultivators. In Jiangbei, there are only beginning cultivators. However, right now, their Chu family does not have a single Endeavor Sphere cultivator to support them. And such a large family business without support would be like a fish on a cutting board. But as Elder Chu said, Lin is only at the basic level of development sphere. How he can help? And the old man replied that with the talent of Brother Lin and the resources of the Chu family, achieving the sphere of the beginning is only a matter of time, and as for the sphere of transformation, he thinks it is also not impossible. The offer is certainly tempting, but as Lin already said, he does not intend to join any faction, this Jade. But the old man interrupted him and told him to forget it. Since Brother Lin has other plans for this, he will no longer insist on joining. And this Jade he can leave as a sign of their friendship, so there is no problem. There was a car driving through the woods in which some man was telling Boss Chu that this Jade had been given to him for his recovery. By what he had done, the Chung family would surely investigate the matter. Zong's family didn't give him this Jade to help him with his recovery. They just want to charge him more money while he's still alive. Besides, now the Zong family has a lot of problems as it is. They can no longer protect their Chu family in Jiangbei, and he thinks that under this situation, the Chu family will be able to protect this piece of jade. One of the guards was still worried, because to give this jade to a child, what's to stop some family from taking the jade away from him? But it was simple. If the jade was taken away, it would only serve to prove that he and his master were not worthy of support from the Chu family. The Chu family does not need such understanding right now, so it would be easier to just throw away this hot potato and do something much more important themselves. Now the bodyguard understands. He wants to test the abilities of Boss Ling and see the results. No, assume this kid's master is strong enough to challenge my family, so it would be nice to have someone test their strength for them. This Chu Hao Tian helped him. The jade of the melting spirit will greatly facilitate the cultivation, which will save him a lot of time. It seems he is now indebted to Old Man Chu, however. He does not know what this card is for, why he gave it to him. Lin stood in front of Jiangbei University. After 10 years in the heavenly realm, he never thought he would return to such a familiar place. After a decade of ups and downs in another world, never thought he would return to such a familiar place. He was walking peacefully when suddenly someone called out to him behind him. It was a rather familiar voice to him. They were typical high school bullies. The main one, who was in the middle, said he didn't think a kid like Lin had the guts to come back to campus. The rest knew right away it was going to be a good show, and also laughed. He remembered the girl the head bully was hugging. Once in the past he had memories with her, how he ran after her, and she said there was no need to look for her from now on. It was his old classmates, of whom he had almost managed to forget, and he was clapped on the shoulder, asking what he was staring at Chin Chin. And this kid added that Chin Chin is his girlfriend now, so Lin shouldn't even think about her anymore. But Lin was no longer the same, and replied that hadn't he already allowed her to be with her, and removed the bully's hand. The boy realized that Lin is still indifferent, or pretends to be, but he will soon learn the reality. He spoke to Lin Fei that offense is an offense, but there is a graduation party tonight, and invited him to come to participate. His friend asked, "Mr. Chi, do you want to take him with you? They are going to a high-level club, and he is afraid. Clothes for tens of yuan cannot enter," but the other added that it's okay. Lin Fei clothes he takes on. Chin Chin spoke to him, saying that there would be many celebrities at this party, and if he came, it might help him in the future. Lin replied that he understood her good intentions, and he is interrupted by the bully, continuing his sentence in his own way, but they are going to the #1 favorite place in Qianbei, heaven on earth. If he does not have the courage to come, let him forget about it. But if someone invites him, there's no reason to say no. He's the person who likes to eat for free the most. To which the bully replied that this is great news. He will be waiting for him in Tinyagi's room, in paradise on earth, and hopes that he will be there. After which the three of them drove away in their cool cars, real nasty high rollers. Standing alone, he wondered, is this really a so-called heaven on earth? How is it different from the wreckage compared to the mansion he lived in? When he walked in, he was greeted by a bunch of staff, saying welcome to paradise on earth. One of them politely asked Lin if he was booked. Tinyagu, to which he replied that this room had already been booked by Mr. Chi, and asked if he had brought his invitation card. And Lin realized that this Jishan did not say anything about the invitation card. And then he looks behind Lin and says to some Mr. Li that he did not come, and ordered the concierge to escort him inside. Li Xian, the second son of a family of the top 4 landowning families in Qianbei, and Fei Xian, the largest shareholder in Qianbei. Lin was annoyed that they did not need invitation cards, and this Li answered him that he was a VIP client of the Chu Corporation. Of course, he didn't need to book anything. This girl asked who it was who looked like a tramp, then turned to manager Li, saying that it now seems that anyone who wants can enter this hotel. He told her to stop, and not to pay attention to strangers, but okay, old king, old rules, and he pulled out the very card. Lin was immediately told that if he did not have an invitation card, he should please leave, but he objected, and began to look for it. He did get that card, and asked to see. His card is the same as his, isn't it? What card? Don't think you can get any card and enter ours. And then this employee was surprised by something, and it surprised him that he was holding a black VIP card. He did not think that he was the owner of a black premium VIP card of Chu Corporation. Li told this Fei Xian that it seemed she underestimated him. The highest black VIP card, Master Chu didn't even give it to him. She was surprised not to understand who he is. And this worker immediately began to apologize to him. Without stopping, Lin tried to stop him, but could not. At that time everyone was already celebrating, drinking alcohol, eating high-end food, which cost a lot of money. The bully started saying that after today, if anyone has any business-related questions, just find him, Chi-shan. His friend replied in jest, "Generous Mr. Chi, then from now on we will rely on you." Lin was standing under the door, and they were just discussing him, saying that he didn't dare come after all, and assuming that he, the redneck, had been stopped at the entrance. She was sitting there thinking that he seemed to have forgotten to give Lin an invitation card, without which he could not enter. But then he suddenly apologizes and walks in, then puts his hand on Chi's shoulder and says he's late. Chi didn't think a country boy like him would dare come to their business meeting. And since Lin Fei was late, his punishment would be to drink with Chi, he said, looking down on Lin. "Of course," said Lin, "only that," and began to look inside the bottle, preparing to do something. He just throws the bottle. In the air it flips many times, and spills the contents all around. This wine broke into a bunch of little splinters scattered around the room, and Li got mad, saying that this wine was worth 20,000. Could he reimburse it? The employee said that the hotel is willing to compensate all his losses for Mr. Lin, but Li said that's not necessary. He knows that heaven on earth belongs to Chu Corporation, and his family cannot allow to offend her. But this guy interferes with our dinner. I hope you can get him out. Of course his friends supported him, and added that Lin did not have an invitation card, and he suspected that he had snuck in here with evil intentions. But the employee apologized, and replied that because of Mr. Lin's status, he didn't have enough power to kick him out. But he insisted that he was wrong and that he couldn't have that status, and realized that it looked like he'd have to call the general manager over such a small thing. But the employee replied that they knew exactly who Lin was, but not even the general manager could help, because he didn't have the rights either. And then you hear a harsh scream outside the door asking for help. Li immediately realized it was Chin, and it seemed she had just gone to the restroom. At the end of the hallway some guys were hitting on her, saying that Brother Lei is mighty. Brother Lei is amazing. She asked them to let her go, but they wouldn't listen, because they didn't take her opinion into account. They were real freaks. And then Li came in and said let her go, and asked how such pieces of shit from the street even dared to touch his girlfriend. But these guys were not afraid of anything because they were not sober, and they were ready to fight for what they needed. Their companies came together against each other, and Li started saying that he had seen a lot of trash like this guy. He'd better let her go, or else what? It seems he, Lei Bao, hasn't hit people in so long that every passerby dares to lecture him. The cheeky. "You, what did you say? Are you Lei Bao?" Very frightened asked Li, and was incredibly surprised that it was him. "Yes, that's me," he said, and immediately struck Li in the stomach with lightning speed. Li fell to the floor like a lowlife and started apologizing to him, saying he didn't know who he was. His friends were shocked, realizing that to insult Lei Bao, the end of the Qi family, Lei Bao, the son of the boss of the biggest triad in the city of Qianbei. They were discussing that this showman should be beaten, that he got what he deserved, while Lin, standing behind him, pondered his. And at that moment Lei Bao abruptly told them to bring him the guy standing behind. And at first Lin didn't understand what that was about, but then realized that he was talking about him, and he needed to approach this Lei Bao. But why? Lei Bao left Lin no choice, saying that if he did not listen to him, he would break his arms and legs. But then abruptly some commotion begins, and the employee runs into the main room to call the general manager. The general manager himself didn't know anything yet, and didn't understand what happened, what trouble, what was going on. And then Lin walks in and says that he wouldn't want to interfere, but they found him. The workers standing there couldn't believe their eyes that a man had done everything there, and that manager asked Lin if everything was all right. Lei Bao was beaten, and said that the staff was just in time, with the last name Wang, quickly catch me this piece of garbage. But this manager replied that Mr. Lin is an important high-level person in the Chu Corporation. It's not a person he can insult. They were all amazed at this, as the Corporation Chu, an important person, so he is not just trash, just a wolf in sheep's clothing. Afterwards, Lei Bao said he would never forget what happened between them today. The next time, he will. And then he realizes that Lin has already escaped from there without thinking twice. But how it annoys him. He does not like such places in general, also in the company of selfish rich people. And then Lin noticed some sharp, familiar aura, and knew who it was, because he knew how to tell them apart. It was the same killer Lin, in that first life on Earth, but now, it's different. The man said not to worry, because he had already taken care of. In the beginning Lin Fei was also shaking my hand. Eventually he decided to go in there, and then from that hotel he would follow him like a stalker. It was him. Lin didn't even think he'd see that scarred face so soon. The man went outside and started opening the door to his expensive-looking car. And of course Lin just couldn't let it go, so he got into a cab and told the driver to go get that car. There was not only him in the man's car, but another man who called him a leader and reported that they were being tailed. He realized that it was probably families from the hidden world who overestimated their abilities. So don't bother, and let him keep driving. TM find out who did it. Within 3 days, he wants to know everything about this bully. This kid's boss is covering for the Chu family. Yes, that was the dialogue of Lei Bao, who was fed up with this Chu family, and when his subordinate mentioned it he hit him. Isn't that a gas processing family? His Lei family has a patron, and that's enough to bring down the Chu family. And then he got a phone call. It was his father, and Lei Bao was shocked, and asked if the Chu family really had that kind of power. Couldn't he become a gas processor? He starts laughing furiously, and saying that the Chu family still has that bully. Just wait and he'll give them hell. Lin, who was right behind the man, ended up on some sort of woolly mountain, and didn't understand what that place was. And the cab driver responded with anger that today's youth really know how to have fun, come running up the mountain to do obscene things. Apparently, the boyfriend is waiting. Suddenly Lin noticed these two men, who were in red suits, walking up the stairs. Empty Woolen is in a wasteland. Why did this scarred face and his people come here in the first place? The man with the scar explicitly told his assistant that he had business, so he leaves the hops to him. But Lin had to see what they were finally doing on this mountain, which is on a wasteland. And as he was walking through the woods, and could not see much ahead because of the small amount of light, a voice came from behind him asking if he was looking for him. Of course Lin was frightened, and began to wonder when he had time to go behind his back without him noticing it himself. The man pulled out a knife, and said that if he dared to follow them, he must have come for death. But Lin expectedly dodged this blow, although it was quite fast and strong. The man stated that Lin is skilled, and he will tell them, families from the hidden world, no need to think that they do not know their plans, and accused Lin of even coming to sniff out their secrets. Apparently he got up the courage. Then he decided to find out more about which family had sent him, and if he told them, they might let him go. Lin wondered what to answer. Hidden families. Just now in Paradise Corner Scarface mentioned the Shung family must be. He remembered how, at the moment of his death, the man with the scar said something like, "Why don't you manage the power of the Shung family well? Or they might provoke him too." Lin still decided to take a chance, and said that he was sent by Shung's family. He had to make that bet. And the man began to hide the knife and asked if it was the Shung family, why he, instead of preparing to join them, followed them. To which Lin replied that he wanted to ask something of the person with the scar, but it was a farce, and the man abruptly pulled out a knife and stabbed, saying that he thought Lin should ask him in hell. And Lin himself noticed that there is something unusual about him. He is not the usual base-level expert. He is clearly a high level. After Lin realized this, a strong blow was already coming at him. He was hit hard, and he definitely realized that this man is 2 levels above him. It seems there will be problems this time. There is no way this guy can be an ordinary expert in his condition. Even with a spiritual blessing, it will be difficult to defeat the top emperor. He walked up to Lin and advised him to give up, because he had no chance of winning, so there wasn't much of a choice. Damn it, the only thing left to do is use the power of Jade, otherwise he definitely can't win. And that's the end of his story. If you have nothing in common except communication with the families of the Hidden Realm, then this man is afraid of upsetting. Lin almost scared him. Lin understood something about this Jade, and its capabilities, real capabilities, and this man told him to pretend to be weak and die, then rushed into battle. And then this Jade began to glow and smash everything around, thereby protecting Lin from the enemy. Some kind of power went to his head from the Jade, and the feeling was familiar to Lin himself. He has an image in his head of a man in a red kimono, and he's chained with a bunch of chains that are starting to break, from which he realized that he could release the Supreme Emperor right now. He had enough power to do so. And then there was the decisive lightning strike right on this mountain, with incredible force struck by lightning, which did not appear by accident. If he doesn't seize the moment, Su Wei, to brag about his lightning strike, it's only today. He doesn't know how many people are behind the Scar Master, so he'd better leave first, otherwise it won't lead to good. Lin sat at home and pondered. It seems that the aura of the Supreme Emperor in his body is connected to the chi of this world. Could this be the reason that the practice of perfection went much faster? If these 2 forces could not exist together, would he be able to perfection on Earth? Wrong. Only now the spiritual power is poured into the Jade. So, spiritual energy gives birth to new abilities. And that says it all. Lin was very confused, and it was obvious that he was nervous about everything that was going on. Of course, as long as the Jade works, the spirit of the Supreme Emperor and the chi energy will remove restrictions, so he can take advantage of them. This is so, then, need to make a breakthrough. Sit with eyes closed and in deep thoughtfulness. Quietly meditate on God, grasping the kunlun with both hands. Grasping the kunlun with both hands. He felt that something was wrong, and he had a blue unusual aura instead of his usual. It was a sign that finally reached the Hidden Realm. It was obvious that Lion was very happy about this achievement. Possessing the power of double perfection to break through the far frontier, there is probably nothing more to be afraid of. Pity, he thought he could recover sooner, but after connecting with Jade to free the Supreme Emperor from his chains, suddenly, he overcame one boundary with Jade, but it crumbles in an instant. Without a weapon, with an average level of power that can combine aura and innate strength, he can no longer practice it. Apparently, we need to ask the family of cultivators. At home, he noticed his tired wife asleep on the couch, which interested Lin. And she had some kind of note in her hand that said, "Ching Chung, her family is going through a hard time. You need to find the blood of a Patissant Racer, heaven and earth." Is it because of this? He didn't care about his past life, but now it's time to make up for lost time, so she should leave it to him. The man in the car with him said that Yun Wuxiang is here. When he got out, he realized that, oddly enough, the address clearly says number 58, Yunwu House. Cannot find any way. And then some man is thrown out of the car telling him to go away. How dare he enter the house without an invitation? And also added that if it happens again, he won't get off that easy. he'll walk away with broken ribs. The man was angry that they were strangling him in the first place, and Lin went up to him, apologized, and asked where his house number 58 Yunwu. He was somehow very surprised that Lin wanted to go to the fog house, so he asked him if he wanted to go there. Lin realized he knew where to go, so he held out his hand. The man cupped it in return, and said he would tell you something in confidence. A fog house is not the safest place for a man to be, but Lin affirmatively said not to worry about it because he is not weak, and the man realized that Lin is a cultivator, and a very strong cultivator. He introduced himself as Lo Ying, and added that if necessary, he could show the way to the fog house. Lin thanked him and introduced himself in return. The man called him Brother Lin for some reason, and told him to look. Lin asked if it was the Cloud House in 58th Lane, but he answered that this house does not have a permanent place. It was named so because it is located near the 58th lantern of this alley, the main lantern, and serves as the key to the fog house, which was followed by a question of how to use it. Easiest way to affect it externally, and then light it. The farther they go, the brighter it burns. The house will also head there. But Lin asserted that the best way to get at him was another, and began to defiantly use his power. He did it, and said it was ready, which made the man very surprised. Not understanding how it was possible at all, came some man who asked if they lit the lanterns, then said he would escort them to the Cloud House. It turned out that Yun Hong personally came to escort them. This is a VIP service, Brother Lin. You really are amazing. He also asked if he could take his brother Lo with him, the one who had accompanied him here, and the man replied that if Mr. Lin agreed, the Misty House would allow it. If so, that will do, he said. And in the car they were blindfolded for some reason, and Lin asked why, to which Lo explained that it was the normal rule of the fog house not to reveal his situation to strangers, and he realized that this seemed to be Brother Lin's first time participating in such an auction. Unfortunately or fortunately, at this time, something was going on in the bamboo grove on Julin Mountain. 3 people were climbing the stairs. Judging by his abilities, he is somewhere around level 6, which is a pretty high level, and a strong opponent. He didn't expect that someone could kill him in the same world. It's stupid. It's somewhere on the server, he has to believe. The man kept hitting him, and said it didn't matter where he ran away at all, it would be a dead end for him. Lo has only heard about it from some people, but now, he himself can see the Cloud House, and Lin noticed that the mountain is completely enveloped by clouds and fog. However, it looks good. The man told him welcome to the Misty House, and told Lin to give him the invitation to inform Miss Yun Sen of his arrival. Oh yes, thank you, he said while he thought it was strange. Mu Qing Cheng's letter didn't mention an invitation, and Lo said he must have one, and he still wonders what family of cultivators he is from. The man explained that of course he could not enter the house without an invitation. However, he had not seen such a young man who could light 35 lanterns for a long time. Since young Lin doesn't have an invitation, they can take a walk for now, and he'll let Miss Yun Sen know so she can make a decision. Lo asked if Lin knew what treasures were in this auction. In response, Lin asked if he was referring to the patinal blood of the Reisher. He was surprised and asked if Lin wanted to get it. Lin himself noticed that his voice seemed surprised. But why? Lo began to say that it is a valuable thing in this world. Almost all the families have come to Jiangbei for it, besides the Chu family, and he is afraid that he will not be able to get it. This made Lin angry, and realized that Lo seemed to take his words as thrown to the wind. And then the guard of the fog house, Tai Min, and his assistants appeared in front of them. He asked that they not consider his further actions rude. Lo did not understand what he wanted to do, and he immediately explained that he wanted to break his arm. He began to explain that this time Yun Hong is stepping in for them, and it would be better for them not to get involved, to which Tai Min wondered if Brother Hong could personally intercede for someone like Lo. He began to explain that he had misunderstood. He was talking about him and his brother Lena. He was a guest of the Misty House, from which Tai Min laughed, and said he had never heard of such a family, then told his brothers to let Lo and Lin see the power of their blades of the snake of the Misty House. And at that moment, 3 swords flew at them. Lo said to be careful, because this technique belongs to the village of the Misty House, to which Lin was surprised by the spirit blades. Even if there is magic and magic spells left on the ground, it depends on them. Even though he's nothing more than a silkworm, is he still trying to prove something to him? He would say that these spiritual blades are good for high-level fighters, but people like them won't be able to operate them properly. But they all decided they were going to kill him, so they pointed their blades again in an attack, trying not to leave a chance for Linu. Lin simply got tired of this, so he decided to effectively dodge all the blades at once and act, and also asked to be allowed to show them what is called spiritual weaponry management, and he himself began to do so. They were incredibly surprised. How could it be that spiritual blades snake? They realized that it was a bad thing. The man couldn't figure out if it was innate or what, and then a woman's voice sounded, which surprised Lin, and they stuck the blades into the pole that was next to them instead of killing them all. 10 minutes earlier, the man who had accompanied Lin and Luo came to the woman and then apologized, saying that he had finished the case. When she heard the story about Lin lighting 35 lanterns at once, she was surprised, because an ordinary person can't do that. So she asked him if he found out the details, but the answer was disappointing, that he didn't know anything. But as it turned out, the man's last name was Lin. After hearing that, she wondered if there were any families in Jiangbei with the last name Lin, and assumed that he was a foreigner, and therefore she did not know such a family. But she was still alarmed. Now we see what is happening now. That female voice was the voice of the third Miss Yun San, the owner of the Fog House. She saw Lin, called him a young handsome man, and affirmed that she wanted to arrange a visit. All the workers at the Fog House wondered what the third Miss was even doing there, and everyone got nervous about it. And Lin nonchalantly asked if she was Miss Yun San, and she remembered seeing Lin earlier. It was at that club that she thought he was a regular redneck, but it turned out she was wrong. The man was surprised that Miss knew him, and she told him that she had met him earlier at the Chu family home. The head guard decided to lie to her and said that they caught and guarded him, so everything is under control. But she realized he was lying and said it was a disgrace. If not for the mercy of Gongzi, he would be dead already, then ordered him to go and get 50 lashes to apologize to Mr. Lin. He got very excited and started making excuses that he was just scared of a strange lie that he had seen for the first time since he had been here. He would definitely not touch it again from now on. The man who escorted Lin asked if Tae Min had forgotten the house rules. If he forgets the rules again, he will receive 50 lashes as punishment. He reflected that he could not be challenged even by their miss, but to argue with his professionalism, which he has at such a young age, is not worth it. Yun San decided that she would like to invite the respected Lin to the Tianqi Pavilion as an apology, so that she could prepare for tomorrow's auction. Luo rejoiced, because the Tianqi Pavilion is, after all, the most highly qualified place to treat the 4 most famous families. And it seems that Miss Yun San has a completely different goal. She began to say that Chu's family had not arrived, and therefore the first of the 4 pavilions of Tianqi is free. Since the guy next to him is his friend, he can also stay there. Lo went on to explain that being in this pavilion would give him many privileges in the Fog House, so he had no reason to refuse the invitation. In which case, he would like to thank Miss Yun San. It's night, Tianqi Pavilion. Lo tried to open the door, but for some reason, he fidgeted and started looking around in fear. And Lin realized that Luoying really has some problems that he can't understand. He would like to know his purpose for being in this foggy town. And at that moment, he bounced very high off the ground, and Lin soared into the air. Thereby, thanks to the high jump, he could see everything at once, and he could also follow Lo. As he began to run, some rather familiar voice was heard beside him, addressing him. It was Miss Yun San, who asked where Lin was going. She instantly caused a lot of trouble, but the lynx casually replied that he wasn't going anywhere, just decided to walk around, after which he took him by the shoulder and passionately suggested he let her accompany him tonight, to avoid having a bad time. But he coldly replied that he thought it was unnecessary, after which she asked not to be misunderstood. She came to him on business, and asked if they could go into the room and talk. Lin asked Miss Yun why she put her hand on his neck. In response, she asked if he didn't like it, but he said he meant it wouldn't work. Lin is so puzzled, she asked, and Lin replied that Miss Yun is not so shameless. So why pretend to be? She replied that Lin Fei is really no ordinary person, the mask of Fei Dong, except Li Shixian of the Li family. He first then offered to talk about business, regarding the lineup of the main 4 families in Jianbu, and the 3 main groups of the Yun family. Day 2, a voice is heard telling Miss Lin to go to the auction. The man asked why Mr. Lin thinks it's not appropriate. He said it's nothing, just curious. There seems to be something strange about it. At the auction, the bid was 1 million, and then many people raised it by another 100,000 each time. Lin family bet 3 million. People did not understand how this is possible. Who dared to outbid the Yun family? To which he was answered that it seems it was a young man named Lin Fei. Mr. Lin, the bet is 3,100,000. It looks like Lin was not going to give up. Everyone heard that he raised the stakes, and realized that he was openly competing with the Yun family. Someone was surprised not to understand who this Mr. Lin. This is a very brave act on his part. The noise in the hall did not die down, and many were wondering who it was that Lin dared to compete with the Yun family. Some man informs his master that he checked. This man lit 35 lanterns and got special access to the pavilion. It was the second son of the Yun family, the older brother of Yun Fai San, and Lin really became more and more interested in him. The man again said that the Misty House had given him a special invitation and asked to be allowed to bring. He saw what was on the card and realized that this kid is very important to the Fog House, since it provides the best conditions for him. After which the man asked if he would place more bets or stop. Eventually he decided that that was enough for today, and smiled with interest in Lin. Yun family out of the auction. Yun Tingxia surrendered. It seems this Lin is very powerful. He began to remember Miss asking him if he needed anything other than special upgrade items, to which he said that if he could, he would have taken Racier blood. After which she said he owed one favor in the Fog House. The head of the family, the old son of the Jin family, the young master Jiang Wenfeng and Jiang Yingxiu, the second daughter, his younger sister, were discussing whether they knew his. Miss congratulated Lin for getting Racier blood even though it was the 3rd attempt. 3,100,000. Here the bidding has officially closed. Guests are invited to go to the festive hall for dinner. Lin thanked Miss Yun for her help, for he finally got the Racier blood, just as he had wanted from the beginning. Miss Yun is very kind. Can he ask for a loan? Her face showed incomprehension. Since he doesn't have that much money right now, he doesn't know if Miss Yun would want to lend it to him. There was a very awkward pause between them, but Lin tried to pretend that everything was normal. She said that Lin Fei smiled. He wanted Racier blood, and she gave it to him. But he assured her that no, he, Lin Fei, took it to heart, and his debt would be repaid, whereupon she agreed. Miss informed Lin Fei that it was almost midnight, then offered to go to dinner, and Lin noticed something. Little girl would really like to eat with him. She started flirting directly with Lin because she liked him. He thanked her for the invitation, and added that he would never forget it, after which she called him sweet. And Lin thought he had to go to the attic to make sure of something. She noticed Lin's uneasiness and asked if everything was all right, to which he replied that everything was fine, and asked her to go to the festive hall first, because he had some business to attend to. Well, the little girl will go first, and wait there for Mr. Lin, and Lin thought he was tired of Miss Yun. And as soon as she left, Lin instantly jumped out of that room and went to check out what he wanted. Like the previous loft structure, it is a matrix, but who the hell did it here? This energy could resonate with him? He did make a very good deal. Sit, eyes closed, and in deep thoughtfulness, calmly reflecting on God, grasping the Kunlun with both hands, is a dual power development method that will help him rise to the 7th level to reach the boundaries of the spiritual realm. Does rising to 7th level require loosening the Emperor's shackles to get an ability upgrade? Combination of yin and yang, heaven and earth. Open my eyes. Heavenly eye, the magician can see traces of energy use, which allows you to track the caster. It's a really good ability, very handy and practical, helps in many situations. Lo pondered that whatever the case, now everyone is at a celebratory dinner, so they have weak defenses, and when they relax, he can take the sacred relics. Thanks for watching. If you want part 2, like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends.